The Citizen Report is a production of New Shannon Media. All content protected under copyright. This is the Citizen Report with Jonathan Shannon.
And welcome to the Citizen Report. I'm Jonathan Shannon, and thank you for joining me tonight. As always, this newscast is real, in-depth American. Thank you so much for joining me, and as always, it's good to be back. Before I get started tonight, I just want to kind of give everyone a heads up that very soon I intend to purchase a new domain, which is to basically say a website address, if you will, for the Citizen Report. The website that you're accustomed to going to, thecitizenreport.weebly.com, that will remain unchanged for now at least. But my hope is to purchase a new domain address that will basically redirect to that website. So basically what in essence I hope to accomplish with that, at least for now, is to provide you with an easy to remember address. I'm not exactly sure what it's going to be called yet. I have an idea at least, and I'll have to see if that's available. If not, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But possibly as early as by the time I join you next time, that website address will be, whatever it is, will be acquired. So at any rate, I just want to let everyone know that. And when that does happen, of course, I'll be sure to let you know. And I would encourage you to update your browser, the bookmark, make sure you bookmark that. So in case something happens to my YouTube channel or some other social media, you always have a way of getting to the Citizen Report. So big tech censorship is going into overdrive. I mean, it's been in overdrive now for several months, and it's continuing. So as a certain broadcaster or podcaster, if you will, says online, and I have to be so careful now what I say because of all the algorithms, but I'll just say it one time. X22, he says that he does believe a blackout of basically communications, is coming. It's still coming. So we'll have to wait and see how that actually unfolds, if it unfolds. And I'm just trying to start to take I'm going to be taking certain measures to try to, and I already have taken measures, the text alerts, text message notifications. If you're on that, there's only a few of you that taken advantage of it. But basically, if you're on that list, when I do a broadcast, when it's uploaded, I provide you with a link. That way you have a foolproof way of getting notified, so that even if YouTube kind of messes with that or something else happens, you still have a way of getting notified. And also, if I become censored, that is a way I intend to communicate with you to let you know what's happened. So, or at least one of the avenues. So I know that was a little bit drawn out, but I just felt like I wanted to say that up front. And I also want to say that there are some changes coming. I know this isn't exactly a studio right now. I am going to be back in the studio pretty soon, or the set, if you will. I got some new lighting equipment, and I might be making some further, changes here or there to it. We'll have to wait and see what happens, but I will be back in the studio before long. So at any rate, we got a lot of news to cover, to unpack tonight, particularly as it pertains to the jab. I'm afraid to even use the V word, but the CDC, which is the Centers for Disease Control, and the Food and Drug Administration, FDA, they have issued a joint statement that they're pausing right now I don't know if it's the proper word is release, but the promulgation, if you will, of the Johnson & Johnson jab. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to read to you this for your consideration, okay? So this was a statement issued April 13, 2021, and it reads, joint CDC and FDA statement on Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine. The following statement is attributed to Dr. Peter Marks, director of the FDA's Center for Biologics Evaluation and Research, and Dr. Ann Schuchat, hope I pronounced that right, principal deputy director of the CDC. And the statement reads as follows. As of April 12, more than 6.8 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson or Janssen vaccine, and I should clarify, and this is me talking here, Janssen, as I understand, this is according to the BBC, Janssen is what it's referred to in Europe. I just felt like I needed to clarify that in case someone got confused by that. So more than 6.8 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson or Janssen vaccine have been administered in the U.S. CDC and FDA are reviewing data involving 6 reported U.S. cases of a rare and severe type of blood clot in individuals after receiving the J&J vaccine. In these cases, a type of blood clot called cerebral venous sinus thrombosis, or CVST, was seen in combination with low levels of blood platelets, or thrombocytopenia. That's a long word. Anyways, all 6 cases occurred among women between the ages of 18 and 48, and symptoms occurred 6 to 13 days after vaccination. Treatment of this specific type of blood clot is different from the treatment that might typically be administered. Usually, an anticoagulant drug called heparin is used to treat blood clots. In this setting, administration of heparin may be dangerous, and alternative treatments need to be given. I'm not going to read all this statement. I'll just leave this up for a moment. If you want to pause it to read the remainder of this, you're more than welcome to do so. I mention this for good reason, and I've got more things to share with you here in just a moment. And again, I'm going to leave this up for a moment to make sure everyone has a chance to read this or pause if they need to. But basically, we're starting to see basically a slow walk of an admission that these vaccines, and I shouldn't have said that because of the algorithms, but you know what I'm referring to, the jab, is not exactly as safe as they say it is. And let's remember something else too. These jabs are experimental, okay? What I mean by experimental is that, and I'm not a doctor, I don't pretend to have everything to a T exactly right in how I'm saying this, but for those that understand what I'm trying to say, basically a vaccine, when it's issued through normal means, it has to go through a very rigorous process. Basically, they did trials, and I guess I'm assuming they're continuing trials of certain types at the very least, but when you normally do a new jab, there's a certain process, and it takes a certain period of time, and all these different things have to go through a process. And I understand a lot of it's bureaucratic, perhaps not very, perhaps it's just governmental in nature, because government always takes longer than it needs to anyway, regarding just about anything. But my point being is that even though Operation Warp Speed sped up, and I'll go ahead and stop sharing this at this point, even though Operation Warp Speed went through all that they went through and they sped everything up, that doesn't excuse the necessity of issuing a jab through an ethical process where you can trust its efficacy. And what I'm trying to say, what it really boils down to, is you need to see that through repeated trials, where you can quantify it, and where it, over a long period of time or whatever period that they deem necessary, that through the trials, it's demonstrated that the vaccine is overwhelmingly safe and the efficacy is, supports that. This is not what we have here. And I have other things I could say, but I'm going to leave it just about there, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of move on because I'm already kind of rambling a little bit. But I'm trying to urge you, if you have not taken a vaccine, that if it is of your own free will, I implore you not to take it, because we don't know what's going to happen down the road to people that took the vaccine. And I've been warning people that the masks were just the beginning. It was about conditioning you to accept being controlled. All this was. And I don't much care if people like me less for saying that. That's their right to not like me for my opinion. That's fine. But I'm not going to stop saying that I had told you so, that the masks were just the beginning. And I'm not just being inclusive of what I've said on this broadcast. I'm just talking about in general. If you pay attention to what I have said on Facebook or wherever, I have said, and I have held firm on this, that the masks were just the beginning. It was not just a piece of cloth. It is about controlling you. I have said that. I continue to say that, and I'm not going to stop saying that. Now, I'm not being a hypocrite. I have worn a mask. In fact, I wore one just as recent as today. And by the way, I practically got nauseated from wearing it. I'm not going to go into the reason why, but suffice it to say, they are extremely unhealthy, particularly in certain environments, we'll say. But my point being is that these masks should have been your right to choose to wear one or not to wear one. And instead, they mandated, being the tyrants that they are, they mandated them. And now, what do we have here? We have the jabs. They're saying that, oh, it was like last year. It's like, oh, we're never going to go down that route. Well, look where we are. And I'm going to show you in a moment what I'm talking about. We are seeing, and I'm trying to minimize how many times I use the word for try to avoid or stay under the radar of the algorithms, but the vaccine passports. The vaccine passports is what they're trying to bring on deck. And you need to understand, let me broaden this out for a second. I promise I'll get to the other items here. But you need to understand something. I'm trying to be as clear as I can. I'm trying to speak as clearly as I can. We are the deep state. President Trump got elected, and he shouldn't. When I say he shouldn't have been elected, my point being is that it was the deep state, the tyrannical, satanic cabal wanted Hillary Clinton in office. But Trump, by the grace of God, as far as I'm concerned, got him in office. And I do believe the military was involved with that. I'm not saying I know that, but I can guess and I can speculate. And also, I think certainly X-22 has, I believe, has basically said that. They are now having to speed up their 16-year plan to destroy America. Okay, it was supposed to start under Obama and finish under Hillary. Now the timeline is being accelerated. Joe Biden is a puppet. He doesn't know where he is half the time. Okay, the guy is clearly not there. They're trying to usher in the Great Reset. The Great Reset stems in part from the central bank. Their system is in the process of collapsing. The fiat money system is in the process of collapsing. What is fiat money? Let me recap what that means. It basically means currency issued on the promise that the government will honor it for that amount, or basically the government says it's worth this amount. And the central bank, in our case, the Federal Reserve System, and if you're watching from another country, it may be called, it's whatever it is in your country. But in our country, the United States, it's the Federal Reserve System. It's neither federal nor a reserve for us. It's a private bank system. They basically, they charge interest to the American people. That's why you hear interest rates. Each dollar is charged a certain percent. You and I, American citizens, have to pay that interest. How do you pay that interest? Well, you don't yet have that money, so you have to create more money, and it regurgitates. And you see why God in the Bible, why the Bible speaks against interest, because it leads to corruption. I'm not, I'm not. I don't have it in the front of my mind, or even in my mind, what the Bible actually says on the matter, and I'm not trying to say in full what the intent was there and with that scripture. But my point being is that we have this globalist system and the Great Reset and all this stuff. And these vaccine passports are one part of that. It's meant to control you. It's meant to control your movement. The global warming, climate change, ridiculous narrative. That is another part of it. They're trying to bring in stuff to restrict your liberty, your freedom to be a free man or a free woman in your country, like the United States. So I think I've explained that enough. I hope that makes sense. But let me move on, because I'm gonna bring it back to this vaccine the jab proper, and I'm trying to minimize again, because the algorithms are just insane. And it's a shame I have to kind of watch what words I use. I should be able to speak freely, because I have a constitutional right to freedom of the press to report without fear of, something bad happening or oppression. Well, anyways, let's go to this now. This is from Natural News, and I highly recommend that people, whether it's by coming to this website or by just listening to his podcast, Mike Adams, who basically is behind this, does a very good job, speaks very clearly on subjects, particularly pertaining to health and also the deep state. His podcast is called, I think it's called the Health Ranger Report. So this is the headline. Looks like this was posted by Nolan Barton. Anyways, it is on naturalnews.com if you want to go see it. It says, ex-Pfizer vice president, stop vaccinating people who are not at risk of dying from coronavirus. All right, this is what it reads. I'm only going to read a portion of this. Natural News. Former Pfizer vice president, Dr. Michael Yeadon, implored those in the medical profession to stop giving Wuhan coronavirus COVID-19 vaccines to people who are not at risk of dying from the virus. And this is a quote, just stop giving them the vaccine. People are dying, unquote. Yeadon said in the Dellingpod podcast with James Dellingpole. He cited the recent cases of blood clots in the brain associated with the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine in Germany, where the victims were mostly women under the age of 60. Quote, those are women who would not have died of the virus. They're being killed by the virus, unquote, said Yeadon. Or in case I misspoke, let me back up. My apologies. They're being killed by the vaccine, unquote. I don't know if I said that wrong. I'm just making sure I got that right. Said Yeadon, who has an extensive experience as allergy and respiratory researcher. Germany has since suspended the use of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine for people aged below 60 because of the risk of rare blood clots. Yeadon slams AstraZeneca's COVID vaccine trial in children. Yeadon also questioned the clinical trials of COVID-19 vaccines in children, noting that there had been 0 deaths among previously healthy children who acquired the vaccine, or who acquired the disease. My apologies again, I misspoke. He specifically slammed the AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine trial in 300 children. And this is another quote from him. Quote, it's an awful, awful behavior. We're exposing 300 children to get results that will be used for public relations purposes to coerce you to bring your children, and I'm assuming this was added for clarity of what he was referring to, for vaccination, Yeadon said. University of Oxford, which developed the vaccine with AstraZeneca, said that it had suspended that trial of the vaccine in children and teenagers in Britain while it waits for regulatory guidance. According to Yeadon, the results of that trial don't really matter because it is statistically underpowered, meaning the test has relatively poor probability of detecting a specific effect. For example, the test won't detect if the vaccine can lead to the death of 1 in 1,000 children. Without that data, you will not know that 10,000 of every 10 million children will be at risk of dying after getting the COVID-19 vaccine. So he urged the parents not to bring their children to vaccination sites if and when a COVID-19 vaccine for children gets authorized. Let me skip down here to this part. I think this is also important to mention. Yeadon thinks there is a bigger reason why governments insist on vaccinating everyone, vaccine passports. Those who own or operate the vaccine passport database, i.e. the governments, will have complete control of people. They will determine where people can or can't go depending on their immunization status. They will determine the privileges a person can get. Quote, they want to have a common platform database with your name, unique ID, and immunization status, unquote, Yeadon said. Quote, that platform provides the perfect tool for totalitarian control of every living being on the planet, unquote. There is no medical reason behind it, according to Yeadon. Governments simply want more control. Governments can't say they want to protect the vaccinated people from the non-vaccinated people because the vaccinated ones are supposedly immune to the disease. The only plausible reason they can give is that they want to protect the non-vaccinated from each other. But even that reasoning is flawed. Having vaccine passports promotes division in society. It's like segregating the vaccinated from the non-vaccinated population. So instead of protecting non-vaccinated people from each other, the governments actually encourage them to converge and live a life separate from the vaccinated population. Of course, governments don't want that scenario. They prefer to control everyone. They want to create a world where they can monitor every action and predict every outcome. That's why they're trying to get everyone vaccinated. Quote, they want something that has nothing to do with protecting you from this virus, unquote, Yeadon said. He also pointed out in the podcast that people should know it is illegal in most countries to force their constituents to get vaccinated because of treaties. It resulted from the post-World War II court trials of Nazi doctors who experimented on humans without consent. As part of their judgment, the War Crimes Tribunal established 10 principles to guide physicians in all human experimentation. First on the list is the fact that voluntary consent is absolutely essential, meaning no one can coerce you to get vaccinated. The set of principles known as the Nuremberg Code is applicable in the ongoing vaccination drives around the world because, according to Yeadon, quote, these vaccines haven't been around long, unquote, and that, quote, no one can tell you what would happen, unquote, after getting vaccinated. Okay, I think I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to stop reading this at this point. I felt like I was kind of, some of this I was reading for the first time myself, just reading through this. I had just barely skimmed through just maybe the first portions of it. But I believe that this was important to bring to your attention because I believe that this is absolutely dangerous. The idea that a government can tell you to get a vaccine just so you can be in normal society again. 1 second, let me get a drink of my water. So my point being is that you need to be informed about these vaccines. There is nothing wrong with asking questions about a vaccine. There's no reason not to have every possible piece of information you can about something that you would perhaps inject into your body. And the notion that not only are you considered conspiracy theorists just for daring to ask a question, but the notion that they want to exclude you from normal society if you decide not to take it, that is beyond tyrannical. That is just what can I say? It's like Nazi Germany. I mean, and the Democrats, the leftists, they talk about how they're all for inclusion, for equality. But as soon as you dare to say, well, I don't want to get vaccinated, they're like, you can't be part of society. And because you don't want to wear that mask, you shouldn't be allowed in the store. Okay? This is the issue I have. These people who preach this stuff are absolute hypocrites. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect myself. I'm just saying, I am so sick of this mentality that in order for us to go back to normal, we have to wear masks, we have to get vaccinated. And heck, if they say that, oh, we decided to bring, if they decided that, oh, we want to microchip you, we want to put an ankle monitor, which by the way, they do in certain areas. That supposedly, I mean, where does this end? See, if we just stick to the principles of the Constitution, where you have the right as a citizen of this country to live your life in freedom and in liberty, because the very first part of the Constitution, I might add, is we the people. It doesn't say the government. It doesn't say Her Majesty or His Majesty. It says we the people, meaning that we the people, the citizens of this country, created this government. So it's supposed to work for us. It's not supposed to turn around and say you have to wear that mask, or you have to get that vaccine, or you've got to stay in your house and you can't open that business. You have to get this business license. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on and on. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I do believe people are waking up, but I do believe there are still a lot of people. Well, there are a lot of people that still don't seem to get it. We'll have to wait and see if they do wake up. But I'm putting this information out there. Now it's up to you to decide what to do with it. And I provide my analysis of it as well. And same thing. You got to decide what you want to do about it. So let me shift gears here now a little bit. I think this is kind of adds to what I was just talking about the hypocrisy and everything. This is, and I don't pretend, I don't know if this is, I cannot certify 100% this is legitimate. I presume this is a legitimate screenshot here on both sides here, but this purports to be from Daily Mail. And the first one purports to be April 2020. And it says, from Bill Gates' plot to microchip the world to Dr. Fauci blocking natural cures, how anti-vaxxers are already peddling bizarre theories about COVID-19 vaccine before it even exists. So they were already making fun of us and trying to ostracize people that, and they of course say anti-vaxxers, of course they're trying to make it sound like we're crazy people for daring to question. And let me ask you, what is being a journalist about? It's asking questions. It's asking what, when, where, why. I mean, this is such ridiculous. I guess there are a certain group of people, and I guess I could include myself in it, although I don't really consider myself much of a journalist. I'm just pulling up stuff on the internet and talking about it, basically, or just talking about what's going on. And we're basically filling a vacuum of what these mainstream media outlets are supposed to be doing, which is reporting facts. And they're not. They're reporting propaganda. So anyways, so you have that first piece there. You can see it on your screen right now. On the right-hand side of your screen, also purported to be from Daily Mail. And it reads, and again, I cannot guarantee 100% certainty that this is absolutely, I cannot certify that this is a legitimate screenshot, but taking it at face value, okay? On the right-hand side, it purports to be from the Daily Mail. And it's from this month, actually just the other day, apparently. And it reads, Pentagon scientists reveal a microchip that senses COVID-19 in your body before you show symptoms, and a filter that extracts the virus from blood. So you tell me. They say they were basically implicitly or implying that it was a crazy notion to think that there would be or I should say that there would be a crazy notion that there would be a microchip. Well, explain to me why we now have this on the right-hand side of your screen. The hypocrisy is clearly to be seen here. If this is not hypocrisy, I don't know what is. And it's just a complete disregard for truth, or and it just shows you that this is just so ridiculous that we've been questioning and we've been telling you that there's a huge issue with the narrative, and now I'm just saying things that we've been saying. I haven't really been on the tangent of microchip stuff, but I've been more concerned about the masks giving way to vaccines and just the overall degradation of our rights. So there it is for you to see, clearly to be seen there. Okay, so it just continues to underscore the fact that we are in a situation here that basically, I mean, what can I say? That this is a horror. This is an absolute horror of a reality, that what we've been saying about masks giving way to masks giving way to vaccines, and just the overall degradation of our liberty, our rights, are now, it's coming true, and worse than we thought it would be. Because who would have thought a year later we would have, and again, my personal editorial policy is not to intentionally refer to him as president, because, constitutionally, read the Constitution and what it actually says. But anyways, Mr. Biden, I'll call him that, the current occupant of the Oval Office, who would have thought he would be there? Who would think that we would be still dealing with this ridiculous crap a year plus later now? I mean, this is beyond ridiculous. So, anyways, now I want to share for your consideration a video purported to be from Bill Gates, or showing Bill Gates. Now, is it possible that his words were taken out of context? Was he referring to reducing carbon dioxide? What, I'm going to let you watch this for yourself, and you decide, you discern what this is. Bill Gates, this is back in 2010, so a little more than 10 years ago now, a little more than 11 years ago, as a matter of fact, had this to say. It's a long buildup. It's about, about 3 minutes. It's a little bit of a buildup, but I think it's important for you to hear the context leading up to what he says about the jab. Okay, so let me play this for your consideration, and then then I'll continue.
We need to meet a new constraint, and that constraint has to do with CO2. CO2 is warming the planet, and the equation on CO2 is actually a very straightforward one. If you sum up the CO2 that gets emitted, that leads to a temperature increase, and that temperature increase leads to some very negative effects. The effects on the weather, perhaps worse, the indirect effects, in that the natural ecosystems can't adjust to these rapid changes, and so you get ecosystem collapses. Now, the exact amount of how you map from a certain increase in of CO2 to what temperature will be and where the positive feedbacks are, there's some uncertainty there, but not very much. And there's certainly uncertainty about how bad those effects will be, but they will be extremely bad. I asked the top scientists on this several times, do we really have to get down to near zero? Can't we just, cut it in half or a quarter? And the answer is that until we get near to zero, the temperature will continue to rise. And so that's a big challenge. It's very different than saying, we're a 12-foot high truck trying to get under a 10-foot bridge and we can just sort of squeeze under. This is something that has to get to zero. Now, we put out a lot of carbon dioxide every year, over 26 billion tons. For each American, it's about 20 tons. For people in poor countries, it's less than 1 ton. It's an average about 5 tons for everyone on the planet. And somehow we have to make changes that will bring that down to zero. It's been constantly going up. It's only various economic changes that have even flattened it at all. So we have to go from rapidly rising to falling and falling all the way to zero. This equation.
Let me pause it right there. Let me say this is the part you're going to want to pay more attention to than the first 2 minutes. Let me just say very briefly that again, it's entirely possible that his words were taken out of context and he's referring to reducing carbon emissions. I don't know. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just showing you what's here because he is referring in context to carbon emissions. But even so, why is he mentioning vaccines? And I know, you'll see what I'm talking about in just a moment. Why, even if it's carbon emissions that he's referring to reducing, why is vaccines a portion of it? Wouldn't you be talking about the environment itself proper? What does vaccines have to do with it? So read in between. It's not necessarily what he says, but what he doesn't say. And again, I'm not trying to read something into this he didn't mean to say. I'm just saying, you discern what you're hearing here. Again, he is referring to carbon emissions, reducing that. So whether he's referring to that, just listen and discern what he's actually saying here.
The equation has 4 factors, a little bit of multiplication. So you've got a thing on the left, CO2, that you want to get to zero. And that's going to be based on the number of people, the services each person's using on average, the energy on average for each service, and the CO2 being put out per unit of energy. So let's look at each one of these and see how we can get this down to zero. Probably one of these numbers is going to have to get pretty near to zero. That's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But there we see an increase of about 1.3. The second factor is the services we use.
Okay. There was something he said that I didn't quite pick up on until this time around. In the same statement where he was referring to vaccines, he also referred to reproductive health. What does that actually translate to? And again, they like to use lofty terms, but what I believe he's actually referring to is abortion. So you put abortion and vaccine in the same statement about reducing. What is he actually referring to reducing? You decide. You discern. But by what is it, 10, 15%? Okay, you tell me. Let me play that part for you one more time, and you tell me.
That's back from high school algebra, but let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But there we see an increase of about 1.3. The second factor is the services we use. This encompasses.
So again, it's entirely possible that he's referring to reducing the carbon emissions, if you will, by 10, 15%. Is he actually saying that? Even if that be the case, even if I give him generous benefit of the doubt, I still cannot reconcile the fact that he said he included in that strategy vaccines and reproductive health services, which I'm guessing translates to actually mean abortion, murdering the unborn child. Okay, so murdering an unborn child put together with vaccines. You tell me, how does that square with the notion that vaccines are all about saving lives? Yeah. So I'm just an average guy, and I'm just trying to put the pieces. It took me just a few moments to pull this video up. I'm not even doing that much work. Okay. And I cannot believe people still don't seem to get it. So anyways, I'm going to shift gears here quite a bit now to the BBC, a report from the BBC. This is a headline. This is an update to what I first talked about on a previous broadcast, talking about Satan's shoes. And I want to clarify what has actually happened. Apparently, as I understand it, Little Nas X, supposedly a celebrity. It's like whatever. He basically modified through, I guess, I don't know if it's his company, but whatever, modified some older Nike shoes, a particular kind, I think. And now we see an update here that this is 5 days ago, as of this recording, that Satan shoes to be recalled as Nike agrees to settle lawsuit. Now, Nike filed a lawsuit. I think they were alleging trademark infringement. So that's a good turn of events here, that we see that Nike is coming out and saying, no, you were not authorized to do this. And now we see that this happens. Now, of course, I don't have all the answers to this, but at face value, it appears that at least Nike did the right thing in this case. And again, I'm not pretending to know everything there is to know about that, but just taking it at face value. Nike did the right decision, even though they're a woke company, not in a good way, obviously. They did the right thing by clamping down on this quite quickly. So that's that. I want to shift back to Bill Gates. I forgot to mention something. Now, for those that want to, propose the notion that Bill Gates, well, he's a qualified individual, to talk about health. And I know I'm jumping around here, but I forgot to mention this, and I want to make sure I get this in. This is on Wikipedia, and I know you say what you want about Wikipedia, but I just want to bring this up. It's kind of a footnote to everything that I just mentioned about what he was, his video, what he said in that speech, and in that, shown in that video. This is what it talks about his academic qualifications. For those that want to say he's medically qualified or try to imply such, let me bring this to your attention. It says he chose a pre-law major but took mathematics and graduate level computer science courses. While at Harvard, he met fellow student Steve Ballmer. Gates left Harvard after 2 years, while Ballmer stayed and graduated magna cum laude. Years later, Ballmer succeeded Gates as Microsoft CEO and maintained that position from 2000 until his resignation in 2014. So if someone if I'm wrong in saying that he's not medically qualified, then please tell me. But at face value, he is not a doctor. He's not even beginning to be such. And this is another thing. They keep parading people in front of us like Bill Gates and Bill Nye, the science guy, the science guy. And it just baffles me that people just take this in, and yet they want to mock people who actually qualify to speak on, various matters, that are actually qualified to speak on it. And yet you've got frauds like Bill Gates wielding money out there to do all kinds of God knows what. And yet people are just like, they're just so mesmerized by Bill Gates. They're just so, the Messiah complex, Bill Gates. It's like, wake up, I mean, I don't know. I mean, can I be any more clear in saying that regarding people that just want to, that, you know, can I be any more clear about? It's just ridiculous. So anyways, you know, I keep up with this stuff about the tyrannical stuff, if you will. So I will keep you updated about it, of course. I'm going to shift gears now. I'm going to try to move along here a little bit. Before I do, and again, I know I don't usually like to do this. I usually like to kind of keep things in orderly, you know, try to, you know, if I'm talking about a subject, I like to try to put it all together in the same portion of the broadcast. But sometimes it just kind of comes out where I'm, you know, where I'm saying something, going on to something else, and I realize I need to go back to something. I don't know when this picture, and I'm pulling it up now because I just a few moments ago remembered this. Can someone please explain to me, and I'll get this up in just a few seconds. I've just got it up. I went to Twitter. I do not, and let me be very clear before I share my screen. I do not know when this took place. It looks like, given their close, you know, how they were positioned close to one another, and given the background and such, it looks like a you know, like a media event of some type, where you probably have a lot of A-list people, you know, a lot of celebrities, and, you know, celebrities take pictures with one another, you know, and I'm trying to give as much benefit of the doubt to this as I can, but I cannot reconcile the fact, and I'm just going to share my screen because I'm not being a hypocrite. I'm not saying I'm a perfect person. I'm certainly not. But what I am saying is that Little Nas X, and again, I presume this was taken long before the Satan shoe crap came along. Okay, so maybe they just didn't know. But I would like for someone to explain to me this. This is a picture of Little Nas X taken with Joel Osteen and his wife. Now, it looks like this was taken at a Sirius XM Super Bowl radio. So maybe this might have been before the pandemic got rocking and rolling. I'm just presuming that, at least. I don't know when this picture was taken. If someone has more information on that, please pass that along to me, because I want to know when this was taken. But regardless, given it was Super Bowl, this was obviously before the Satan shoe crap came along. But will someone please explain to me, how the heck does this make any sense? And I don't take, you know, we shouldn't take pleasure in talking about this. I mean, this should be very concerning. I'm not pretending to be a perfect person. I'm certainly not. I'm not being a hypocrite. I'm not trying to be holier than thou. I'm certainly, you know, not trying to come off that way. But, you know, this is, I mean, why are we having pictures taken with Little Nas X? You tell me. So anyways, because, you know, there's just some things like Satan's shoes. At that point, you have to discern. But let me be very clear one more time. I do believe, absent information to the contrary, I believe absolutely this picture was taken long before those Satan shoes ever came along. Okay, I'm presuming that. So, anyways, I just wanted to let me go ahead and move on here at this point. I wanted to mention this because Dave X22 report brought this up, and I think I'm going to play this for you in its entirety here in a moment. This is Dan Scavino, and we know Dan Scavino puts out certain communications, shall we say, certain hints. Now, you take this to mean what you want, but I think it's a very interesting video. It's about 2 minutes long, and it has someone talking over it, and it shows imagery of Trump while in office. So, while in the presidency. So I do believe, let me bring this back. Let me take this picture back full. I believe that President Trump is going to be back in. Do I know when? No, I don't. But I do believe he will be. And if you listen to people like X22 Report, he makes it very clear that he believes that to be the case too. This is part of the plan right now. It had to be done this way to wake people up. You can believe that or reject that. But if Biden was allowed to be in office, and I'm putting quotations around that because, you know, again, the Constitution is vitally important in all this. Then why? I mean, explain to me why more people are awake now than they were before. If this is actually part of the plan, it sure seems to be working because it's waking people up. Now, you got those that are just, you know, they're dumbasses. They're not going to get it. Okay. But those that are they at least don't want their country to be destroyed. Okay. I guess I'll put it to you that way. For those types of people that may have voted for Biden stupidly, very foolishly, now they get to see on full display the whiplash, you know, the acceleration of the Great Reset, the 16-year plan, you know, and Biden's just a puppet. I mean, he's got his handlers. I mean, all he needs is the little strings on, you know, his arms, you know, having like a little puppet master. I mean, the guy's, I mean, he literally almost presents himself like a puppet. I mean, it's ridiculous. And it's really disgusting. But I want to play that video as I just mentioned. I actually got a copy of my own on this computer. In just a second, what I'm trying to do is make it so there's as little other stuff on this as possible so that you'll see just the movie, I hope, you know, the little clip. So let me pull this up now, and then afterward I'll continue.
If, by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good, nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken, and stoop and build them up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but are none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son.
So that's the end of that video. I think it's very interesting. There's a few things I could say about it, but I just continue to think, when you look at all the comms, the communications, I should say, that are being put out there. And in fact, let me bring up Mike Pompeo. He was the U.S. Secretary of State under Trump after Tillerson was out. If I can bring this up as quickly as possible, there it is. X22 report also mentioned this, and I want to bring this up right now. And I'm going to try to wrap up this broadcast in a few moments' time, or a few minutes' time at least. This is from Mike Pompeo. It says, this is from April 11th. As a proponent of freedom, enjoying some Taiwanese dried pineapple, checkmate. Now look at the picture. Look at this picture. You have Mike Pompeo holding that bag of Taiwanese dried pineapples. So I already know to be thinking about Taiwan in my mind in this. And then checkmate. It's got a checkerboard. So it's a very, very interesting. It's like one of those things that you cannot possibly look at this and not see that this is some kind of messaging going on here. I don't know what the checkmate is. Maybe X-22 report. Maybe he mentioned it. I don't know. But I find this to be a particularly interesting setup here, and and I just continue to believe that they have set up a massive booby trap for the deep state, and I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I don't know exactly how things are going to play out. I'm just an average citizen. That's why it's called the Citizen Report, because I'm just a citizen, and I'm just this is not the mainstream media. I'm independent. I'm looking at this from an independent mindset. And, I just think that there's something, we're not being told the full story on the mainstream media. I think we're going to see President Trump back in office. I don't exactly know how that's going to play out. There's certain theories, but I do believe that sooner than later, things are going to really start to happen. So, in the coming broadcasts, I will try my best to convey as best as I can what I think is going on, but just know that God's in control. And I believe that those that say that they claim that they got a message from God, that they were told that Trump would be in for 2 terms, those that said that Trump would be in, I believe them. I do. And those that want to say they were wrong and they just need to repent of that, I'm like, no, I don't think the story has ended yet. I don't think we've heard the last of the election. And of course, we know what the American people actually chose. Anyone that doesn't see what this clearly was, then they don't get it. And I'm trying to be careful what words I use, but I've already used too many words, so I wouldn't be surprised if this video ends up getting yanked, but I'm going to try anyway. So just a few loose ends to tie up. I want to bring this up. I'm shifting gears here again. This is pretty much one of the last items I have tonight, but I want to bring this up. This is from Knox County, Tennessee, which of course has Knoxville in it. This is I believe the school board there, and I'm not certain about that. Yeah, according to this YouTube channel, it says Knox County School Board member laments that white privilege caused her to have to listen to parents. Now, I bring this up because I just want this to underscore the fact there is no logic behind masks. Show me the science. I want to see it replicated. I don't want to see a propagandist do it. I want to see independent scientists tell me that viral particles don't pass through in a huge amount. Guess what? It does. So I want to play this for you because it just shows the sheer ridiculousness of certain people's logic about masks. How they just go on. They just whenever they hear someone or people complain about having to wear masks or have their children wear masks, it's just they go into it's like white privilege. Like, what? White privilege? Well, you'll see here in a second what I'm referring to. It's just so, and I'm not trying to be a hypocrite, but this is just so ridiculous. It's so pathetic. And I'm not trying to be a hypocrite, but I just want everyone to see how insane this is. So let me play this clip for you. It's only 30 seconds long.
Thank you, Ms. Babb. Okay, board forum.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The resonating comment that just continues to be with me is that whoever this resonates with, be it board members, Knox County as a whole, really sit with the level of privilege you have to live in, and dare I say white privilege you have to live in, for 5 hours to be discussed on masks. Just sit with that level of privilege.
White privilege. So to complain about wearing masks, have their children wear masks, somehow that equates to having privilege, namely white privilege. No, it's called standing up for your rights and trying to go back to a normal life. And frankly, if someone actually is so they just think it's a white privilege deal, then maybe they don't deserve to be an American. And what I mean by that is there are other countries that do not care about what rights you have or don't have. In other countries, I'll tell you, there are countries in this world that rights are non-existent. And yet people want to, there's certain people that say, you have white privilege if you dare to complain about what's going on. It's like, no, parents are standing up for what's right, not having their children wear masks. I mean, this is ridiculous. So it's clearly to be seen. It's ridiculous. It's just the white privilege stuff. It's like, what does race have to do with masks? It doesn't. It's just, this is a spiritual, and I want to say this is a spiritual war that we're in. I'm in it. You're in it. Whether you know it or not, we are in a spiritual war. And God is all things that are good. And every day we have to choose. And, myself included, there are days I've chosen good and there's days I haven't chosen good. And all of us have done that. That's why we need a savior, Jesus Christ, because we all fall short of the glory of God. And when, the spiritual warfare, because we look at the enemy, he is the antithesis. He is the opposite of good. And it's pure insanity. The insanity is he tries to put arguments and thoughts that are insane. And I am not being a hypocrite and saying that. I'm just as much a sinner as everyone else. I'm just saying that this is how I understand it. And I just want everyone else watching this to understand that too. So anyways, a couple more items before I wrap up tonight. Since this is a pretty significant event, and say what you want, but I'm just going to mention it because it's important to mention, because it's a huge deal when someone like this passes. The Duke of Edinburgh, who's the husband of the Queen of the United Kingdom, Britain, Northern Ireland, Scotland, the Commonwealths. Anyways, Buckingham Palace issued a statement. And I want to include this for the record because say what you want about him, say what you want about the royal family. I'm just bringing this up for the purposes because this is regardless of what opinions people have, this is a significant event. So I just want to mention this, being a newscast, I want to include this. And it reads, "It is with deep sorrow that Her Majesty the Queen announces the death of her beloved husband, His Royal Highness, the Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. His Royal Highness passed away peacefully this morning at Windsor Castle. Further announcements will be made in due course. The royal family join with people around the world in mourning his loss." Now that statement was issued on it was issued on April 9th. So this is a few days ago now. I just want to, again, this is a newscast. Even if you think I shouldn't even mention this, I'm just including this because it's a huge deal, significant event that this took place. Okay. So now, before I wrap up, I just want to give a thank you to the U.S. Customs and Border Protection in Charlotte for honoring my dad. They held a memorial event, basically. The CBP Honor Guard I think it was from Atlanta, came to Charlotte, and they played taps and they folded the American flag. And I'm very grateful for the honor that was given to my dad, David Allen Shannon. This is the flag that they folded. I think they unfolded it and then they folded it. If I'm not mistaken, they certainly folded it and then they presented it to my mom on behalf of CBP and a grateful nation. So I am very grateful for this and very, very grateful. I'm just very grateful for this. So you can see it there. Some patches here. A couple of medals here, like little, I think one was a 10-year anniversary of 9/11, little things like that. But this is the flag. I want to say, and I'm not sure if I'm correct in saying this, but I want to say Homeland Security flag. And down below, it has a plaque with Dad's name on it. You know, service with honor. Let's see. Let me try to read this. It says Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, in memory of David A. Shannon, service with honor, November 27, 2006 to February, excuse me, let me start that again. November 27, 2006 February 16, 2021. So again, I'm just very grateful for this honor. And I'm just incredibly grateful for that my dad was granted that kind of offer. I mean, I never would have thought my dad would have gotten taps played. It was I mean, it's an emotional thing when you hear taps played for a loved one. So I appreciate you watching as always. And I just want to say as I wrap up that there are some changes coming to the Citizen Report. Coming weeks, coming months, I hope to be improving this broadcast. I really want to make this broadcast truly professional, of a same quality as what you would turn on TV. Because look, folks, when you turn on TV, you get what they want you to hear. But being independent, there is absolutely no reason why we shouldn't aim for the same professional quality, how they present things and things like that. So I hope in time that this show will continue to improve and it'll become something, I just really hope that this show in time will continue to improve on its quality, and I have every confidence that it will. So anyways, God bless each and every one of you. And don't forget my website, thecitizenreport.weebly.com. Don't forget about stinger.live. That's the Citizen Report has a social media presence there. In between broadcasts, I occasionally post something on the Citizen Report page, so please be sure to check that out. Again, it's stinger.live, stinger.live. So stinger.live, please go check that out. It is a pretty good website. It's in its infancy, got a lot of potential for growth, and hopefully more people will join it in due course. So, and I will be working on getting that domain address pretty soon. And you can find me personally on social media, Facebook, Twitter. I'm not using Twitter much anymore. My primary social media is Facebook, and YouTube is where I upload the Citizen Report right now, and Instagram. And you can find me on TV News Talk. I go by my middle name. I actually use The Ryan as my name there. So anyways, God bless each and every one of you. Please keep me in your prayers. I'm continuing to go through a difficult time, but I'm hoping for better days. So God bless each and every one of you. God bless each and every one of you. And I'll see you right back here again next time. Have a good night, everyone.